Alright, in the last video we talked about just solving absolute value equations. In this one, we're going to talk about a few special ones and also word problems. So we're going to start with the word problem. So most tennis rackets have a 100 square inch head plus or minus 25 square inches. Write and solve an absolute value equation to determine the least and greatest possible sizes for the head of an adult tennis racket. Alright, so if we think about this on a number line, right? They said that it's 110. And then plus or minus 25. So that means that this gap's 25 and this gap's 25. Which you could determine the least and greatest that way as well. We do want to write the absolute value equation. So if we call each of these W, there are unknowns. We don't know what they are. Okay, so the absolute value of W, and this has to end up equaling 25. We want it to be plus or minus 25. So we want it to be the positive or negative, which is what the absolute value is going to do. So our width minus 110, so the absolute value of our width, if it's bigger than 110, it'll be positive. If it's smaller than 110, it'll be negative, has to equal 25. So now what this means is that W minus 110 is equal to 25, and W minus 110 is equal to negative 25. So we add the 110 to both sides, and that means that the width could be 135. Add the 110 to both sides, or the width could be negative 25 plus 110, or 110 minus 25, which would be, what, 85? So the least it could be is 85, the greatest it could be is 135. Alright, we have some special types. So, vocabulary, extraneous solutions. A solution such as that to an equation that emerges from the process of solving the problem, but is not a valid solution to the original problem. Alright, so basically what this means is that if I go through the correct process to solving an absolute value equation or any equation, but that solution that I get is not valid or not making it true, then that means that it is an extraneous solution and it is not actually a solution. So remember that absolute values are always positive. So in this case, if we said the absolute value of x is equal to negative 4, that is never true. It can never be negative. This absolute value has no solution and is called an empty set, symbolized by either a 0 with a diagonal line through it, or brackets with nothing inside of it. Alright, so let's go ahead and so let's work on solving this absolute value. So remember, when solving, we have to isolate the absolute value first, so we got to get rid of this plus 8. So we're going to subtract 8 from both sides. That gives me the absolute value of 3x minus 2 is equal to 1 minus 8, which is negative 7. That negative right there is the issue. Because that's negative, right away I can say that this is an empty set. It has no solution. Alright, moving on here. So this one is going to be our issue with the extraneous solution. So we have an absolute value of x plus 10 is equal to 4x minus 8. Because this is an absolute value, which means it can be positive or negative, and be the same number, this one without an absolute value cannot be. So what we have here is we have that x plus 10 can be equal to 4x minus 8, or x plus 10 can be equal to negative 4x minus 8. It's this negative right here that's going to cause our issue. So just solving, subtract x. That means 10 is equal to 3x minus 8. Add 8 to both sides. We get 18 equals 3x. Divide by 3. And x is equal to 6. Alright, over here, we're going to distribute. So we have x plus 10 equals negative 4x minus 8, or plus 8. Plus 8, the negative and the negative make a plus. So we're going to add 4x to both sides. That's going to give us 5x plus 10 equals 8. Subtract 10. So 5x equals negative 2. Divide by 5. We get that x is equal to, and if you wrote this as a decimal, it would be negative 0.4. Alright, so what we want to do is see that this is extraneous or does not actually make it a true statement. So we're going to substitute both of these back in. Alright, so we have the absolute value of 6 plus 10 is equal to 4 times 6 minus 8. Alright, so 6 plus 10 is 16. So we have the absolute value of 16. 24, or 4 times 6 is 24. 24 minus 8 is 16. Absolute value of 16 is 16 equals 16. Good. Negative 0.4. So if we put that in here, so we get the absolute value of negative 0.4 plus 10 is equal to 4 times negative 0.4 minus 8. And running into issues here. That's alright. We'll make it work. So that's going to give me the absolute value of 9.6 equals, so 4 times 4 is 16. So it's negative, so negative 1.6 minus 8. That's going to be 9.6. That's going to be negative 9.6. And what you see is they are not the same. And again, it was that negative that caused that issue. An absolute value is always positive. This one is not, so that makes this extraneous, which means that the 6 is the correct answer. If you have any questions, let me know. Other than that, make sure you complete the problem set.